Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending the Planning Community Affairs Committee meeting this day of May 17th. And we are via electronic participation once again, and calling this open session to order and ask for a moment of silence. Thank you, everyone. I'll now call on our clerk, Becky Jamieson, to call the roll call and go over the processes for tonight's meeting. Ms. Jamieson?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, for your information, I will be recording the minutes in eScribe this evening and conducting the votes. I will now conduct a roll call to ascertain which members of council are present. Mayor Drew is present. Councillor Watton, are you present?
I am present, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McDougall, are you present?
Yep, I'm here, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Guido, are you present?
I am here, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ross, are you present?
Present, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kiesenbrink, are you present?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Brown, are you present?
Present.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, I can confirm that we have quorum for this meeting. I will now list the staff who are present in alphabetical order. Adam DeBecke, Jason Ryan, our CAO Ken Nix, Kevin Arsenault, Kevin Heritage, Laura Barta, Laura Gardnasio, Lori Bowers, our Fire Chief Mark Burney, Robert Frasca, and Robin Prentice. Is there any member of staff whom I did not mention? As in previous electronic meetings, I will now review the rules for the meeting. Please mute your microphone while not talking. This will avoid any background noise that may occur where you are and will avoid any echo of the audio. Also, please ensure you are in a quiet place to limit background noise when you speak. Please use headphones as this will help improve the audio quality. If you would like to speak, please use the hand raise function in the meeting. The mayor will then call upon you when it's your turn. When moving or seconding a motion, please use the hand raise function in the meeting and the mayor will announce who the mover and seconder are. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the township's YouTube channel. We will be using electronic voting process during tonight's meeting. At appropriate times, I will announce that the voting is open and council members will be asked to make a selection. Once everyone has voted, I will announce that the vote is closed. If for any reason a council member is unable to vote, please announce your vote verbally and say in favor or against. If the electronic voting system stops working for any reason, we will revert back to the verbal vote, whereby the mayor will ask if there was any member of council opposed to the motion. If you are opposed, please state your name and that you are opposed. Thank you, Madam Mayor. That concludes my opening statement.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now call for any disclosure of pecuniary interest and the nature thereof. Seeing none, we'll move on to announcements from council and staff. Councillor Kiesenbrink, you had an announcement?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just would like to say on behalf of Durham Dead End Road Kids that we would like to thank not only the Township of Scugog for support of our motion to Minister Lecce to effect policy change for safer busing, but we would also like to thank these municipalities who have also contacted the province to endorse Scugog's motion. The Township of Addington Highlands, the Township of Uxbridge, the Township of Kearns, and also the Township of Brock. I would also like to thank Mayor Drew and Mayor Barton for speaking directly to the Minister of Transportation during a meeting of the small urban mayors. Mayor Drew expressed her concerns about transportation busing policies that should be amended, advising the minister to watch for Scugog's resolution. Also, the Durham Dead End Road Kids website received word from another father alarmed that his two small children have to walk on high-speed Simcoe to a common stop at Purple Woods, meaning they have to cross over Simcoe facing opposing traffic. DSTS has told him there's no help and this stop cannot be changed. As we continue our advocacy, I trust we will see policy changes soon that will keep our kids off high-speed roadways.
Thank you, Councillor Kiesenbrink. Are there any other announcements from council? Seeing none, I'll call on our staff. Chief Burney.
Thank you, Mayor Drew. Please bear with me. I have several announcements. First, I'd like to speak to COVID-19, though. The active case count in the township of Scugog is presently at 18, a spike in cases since my last report. Household contact and community contact continue to be the exposure source drivers for COVID-19 in the township of Scugog. Excitingly, though, beginning tomorrow, Tuesday, May 18th, at 8 a.m., individuals aged 18 and over in 2021 across Ontario will be eligible to book a COVID-19 vaccine appointment. Next, I'd like to speak to working smoke alarms. Unfortunately, this past weekend we had a house fire. Fortunately, though, working smoke alarms provided for early detection, early notification, escape, and a repairable home. This family fortunately replaced their smoke alarms in the past year, and they worked for them. Working smoke alarms on every floor and outside sleeping areas is the law, and it does work. Next, some exciting news. Firehouse subs. Ahead of a formal press release, I'm excited to share with Council that Scugog Fire and Emergency Services has been named a 2021 grant recipient from Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation of Canada. The grant will provide us the opportunity to purchase public education material and equipment, and I look forward to a formal announcement a little bit later on. Wildfire Community Preparedness Day. This past 1st of May 1st, was Community Wildfire Preparedness Day. Fire Smart Canada awarded the department $500 to help promote wildfire safety across the township. We will exercise this resource in the coming weeks, and I invite our residents to visit firesmartcanada.ca, a webpage for more fire safety information with respect to the wildland. Next is Home Sprinkler Week. This week now, May 16th to 22nd, is Home Sprinkler Week, and I invite our residents to visit homesprinklercanada.ca, a webpage for more information about residential fire sprinklers and fire safety in general. And then finally, Mayor Drew, with the Victoria Day long weekend only days away, I'm asking our residents to be vigilant of the COVID-19 measures. It has taken a lot of sacrifice on everyone's part to make progress on leveling out and lowering the rates of infection. But it is important we continue to act in a safe manner. Choices we make this weekend will significantly impact the COVID-19 case count and our return to the normality we all crave. A reminder, with the stay-at-home order in effect, neighborhood gatherings for fireworks will not be permitted. However, private backyard fireworks displays with your immediate household family will be allowed. Consumers considering private backyard fireworks displays are encouraged to respect their neighbors and practice safe handling of fireworks, including exercise the highest regard for fire safety. That, Mayor Drew, concludes my announcements. Thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you, Chief. You've got some good news items there and some reminders about COVID, and clearly the vaccine is having an effect, and the lockdowns, as hard as they are. Our CAO, Ken Nix.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As everyone is aware, the township has continued service delivery during the pandemic. However, the public may not realize that responding to various provincial directives to protect the public during this pandemic and providing services in a pandemic environment has added a significant workload on top of normal operations. In addition to the direct and indirect pandemic impacts, we've increased our focus on maintaining our assets, which has resulted in an increasing capital program, and we are experiencing a boom in development. Our building activity for new houses and renovations is at an all-time high. In 2020, we experienced an 80% increase over 2019, and in the first 4 months of this year, we're virtually double the building permit activity during the same time frame in 2020. All of this means our staff capacity is stretched, and although we are doing our best to respond to public requests efficiently and in a timely manner, it is difficult to deliver on services such as building permits and turnaround requests as quickly as was done previously. I mention this because, unrelated to COVID, we are unexpectedly short-staffed in the building and public works department areas over the next couple of weeks. As such, we ask everyone's patience while we do our best to continue to respond to our residents as quickly as possible and deliver services to the township. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. Unfortunately, we do have a couple of staff shortages, and it's that much more pressure. So I also ask for everybody's patience. Thank you very much. And are there any other announcements from staff? Seeing none, we'll move on to reports. And the first report is 11.1. It's the draft plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment recommendation report. And I will call on Ms. Robin Prentice. She has a presentation, and then we'll have some discussion. Ms. Prentice, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My presentation tonight will provide an overview of the staff report on tonight's agenda as it pertains to the proposed draft plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment applications submitted by Del Park Homes in 2018. Next slide, please. The subject lands are located on the north side of King Street in the south end of Port Perry between Union Avenue and Perry View Drive. Next slide, please. These lands are located within the Port Perry urban area and are designated residential and open space in the township's official plan. Therefore, the majority of the lands have been identified for residential development purposes, and the official plan encourages a range of housing types and sizes. Next slide, please. In addition to the land use designations, the official plan identifies a road network, including proposed local roads. There are 2 proposed local roads within this area that are identified on Schedule C1 of the official plan, which connect Robin Trail down to King Street and Union Avenue to Mead Drive. Next slide, please. The current proposed subdivision plan includes 325 residential units, comprised of 239 single detached and linked dwelling lots and 86 street townhouses. The plan also includes 1 park block and an open space block, which will be conveyed to the township. The subdivision has proposed road connections to King Street, Union Avenue, Robin Trail, and Mead Drive. Next slide, please. The draft zoning bylaw is proposing to rezone the subject lands to urban residential, multiple type 3 with a series of exceptions to permit residential dwelling units and to address lot-specific minimum building standards. Environmental protection zoning is proposed for the open space block, and open space zoning is proposed for the park block. Next slide, please. It is recognized that this development will take place over time through a series of phases. This plan helps to show where the first phase of this development is planned and would see the extension of Robin Trail down to King Street. The park block and open space block would also be conveyed to the township as part of phase 1. This would be a logical extension of the existing Robin Trail houses and provide the road connection down to King Street. Next slide, please. With respect to next steps, township staff and external agencies have been circulated and provided comments and conditions for the subdivision, as outlined in the report and in attachment number 4. No objections to the applications have been identified by any external agency. Attachment number 3 to the report also outlines all of the public comments received on these applications. Staff are recommending that Council adopt the zoning bylaw and endorse the subdivision plan that's attached to the report. Should the committee support staff's recommendations tonight, the zoning bylaw will be brought before Council on May 31st. If the bylaw is adopted by Council, the township will issue a notice of decision that would outline a 20-day appeal period. If no appeals are received within the appeal period, the zoning would come into effect. The township's decision on the subdivision plan will be sent to the Region of Durham, who is the approval authority for plans of subdivision, and the region will therefore make the final decision on the subdivision application. Once the zoning is in place and the region issues their notice of draft plan approval, the developer can proceed with detailed design and a request for subdivision agreement. Staff will note that timing for this subdivision is tied to improvements required to the existing Prairie View stormwater management pond in order to accommodate this, as well as the Ribcorp and Chieftain developments. Works are anticipated to take place this year on the Prairie View stormwater management pond. I'm happy to answer any questions council may have. Please note that the developer, Eddie Chan, and his planning consultant, Bryce Jordan, are also available to answer any questions. Madam Mayor, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Prentice, and I'm sure that you are glad to have this report completed. It was 84 pages, and then there were a number of questions after this was published for another 7 pages, so 91 pages of material that you've presented here tonight, and it's 75 recommendations for conditions. It's clear that that you've put a lot of thought and work into this report, and we thank you very much. Any questions, please, from members of council? Questions for Ms. Prentice? Councillor Guido?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, if we can show the slide again where the phasing was showed. I don't recall if it was slide number 4. Yes. Oh, slide number 2. Perfect. So in the phase 1 through you, Madam Mayor, at the top of the triangle there where there's lots that are currently not numbered, will those be purchased or acquired by the developer prior to phase 1 starting?
Ms. Prentice?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. It's my understanding that Del Park has an agreement with the current owner of those lands to purchase that block, and it is anticipated that that block would be part of phase 1 and be constructed all at once.
Okay, and then are those numbers included in the 116 units in phase 1, or would that be an addition?
It's my understanding that the 116 units includes that block.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize that I didn't thoroughly have an opportunity to read the second supplementary report that you sent out with the comments, but I did review most of them, and the majority of the comments is expressing concerns with the connection with Mead Drive, as well as the impact on traffic with the Prairie View connection from Simcoe and King. Can you please speak to the Mead Drive connection and why not only the traffic impact study, but why planning staff feel that that connection is necessary?
Sure, through you, Madam Mayor. It's not just planning staff, I would add, because Public Works staff would also support the Mead Drive connection for a number of reasons. So the first one is the Mead Drive connection is outlined in the official plan. The current cul-de-sac on Mead Drive was a temporary turning circle that was identified and registered on title as part of the subdivision agreement for that previous development there. And it was always intended to be connected into this development. As part of any planning, we look to create an interconnected community, and we look for those connections wherever possible. And that's why one was kind of set aside with that temporary turning circle to allow for this connection as this development moves forward. As mentioned, there was a traffic study done, and that included a community impact analysis to take a look at what traffic would be, if it would be impacted by the other, impacting other local roads in the area. The traffic study concluded that the proposed development can be accommodated by the abutting street system, and that the traffic generated by this proposed development does not add adverse impacts on the nearby road network. The proposed plan proposes a road network that attempts to minimize the creation of local roads that cross the entire subdivision in a direct fashion for the purpose of traffic calming. So the way the road network has been set up, you can see that the Mead Drive connection, which is Street D, I believe, at the bottom, or not Street D, Street B at the bottom there, closer to the bottom corner. Yes, thank you. Is a short connection into the development, and it doesn't travel all the way across the plan. So it's not intended to be a cut through that would be used on a regular basis. And it's not intended that a great amount of traffic would use this connection. Most of the traffic would filter down Robin Trail extension to King Street and tie into King Street, which is an arterial road. There were some proposals from the public to get rid of the Mead Drive connection and see a second access onto King Street as part of this development. That's not recommended from a township perspective, because as I mentioned, King Street is an arterial type C road, and the intent is to limit the access points onto an arterial road. It's not typical to have a local road connection like Street D would be, for example, that would tie into an arterial road directly. Typically, they tie into a collector road, which then ties into an arterial road. So that's some of the justification as to why we would support the Mead Drive connection.
Thank you, Ms. Prentice, and through you, Madam Mayor. When Mead Drive was constructed with that subdivision, when the homes were sold at that point, it was indicated that in the future that there could be a connection into any proposed development. Is that why it was built the way it was and not an additional home built where Street B connection would be?
That's correct. As I mentioned, in the subdivision agreement for the existing Perry View Drive development, where the existing homes are, that subdivision agreement outlines that the Mead Drive is a temporary turning circle that would be extended in the future as part of a future adjacent development. And that's why you don't see it as a true cul-de-sac with homes around the entire bulb. It was left open for the purpose of being a temporary turning circle.
Thank you. Further, if I may, in respect to the pumping station and the dependency on the pumping station upgrade for phase 2, is that the only dependency that phase 2 would have, is the pumping station being upgraded?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, that's my understanding. We've been working with Durham Region Works to monitor growth in Port Perry on a whole, and we watch and look at when developments are being constructed and when they're using that allocation up. At this point in time, it's our understanding that phase 2 would have to wait potentially for that Water Street pumping station to be constructed and operational. I would add the caveat that it does depend on when other developments are moving forward and under construction as well.
And do we have an estimated date? Has the region provided us with a date for completion?
So as I outlined in the report, the environmental assessment is being undertaken by the region of Durham for that pumping station. And they have given us a date that they're targeting, which is 2024, 2025.
Thank you. Further, if I may, in respect to the multi-use path on King Street, if I'm reading the report correctly, the pathway or the sidewalk is only extended from the development. It doesn't extend over to Union and down to where the proposed Magnum development is. Is that correct?
That would be correct. The developer is going to construct the path in front of the development, as you see. So it would be on the township to fund the connections between the Dell Park subdivision and Union, as well as between Dell Park and over to Perry View, or perhaps on to where Magnum is as well.
So is this something that staff will identify for future budget considerations, given that we would hate to have a stop-start sidewalk when we can potentially build a beautiful wide path?
Yes, I would leave that to Public Works, as that would be under their section, but I believe we would continue to have those discussions, yes.
And should all approvals be granted, when do we think earthworks would start?
I could direct that to the developer, but he would still have to go through detailed design with respect to providing those plans, those details to staff for approval, as well as a construction management plan and all that good stuff. So you could start to see some earthworks later this year.
Thank you. That's all for now, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Guido. I have Councillor Brown and Councillor Kiesebrink next, and then I don't see any other questions, but I'll be asking for someone to make the motion. Councillor Brown.
Okay, thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor. Ms. Prentice, page 14 of 49 of the comments, it's written, is there enough sewage capacity for this development? So do I understand that many of the existing residents in the nearby areas are on septic and that they will be on town water and sewer, or will have the option of being on town water and sewer as a result of this development?
Sure, through you, Madam Mayor. There are a number of residents along Union Avenue that are currently on, I believe, town water, but private septic systems. As part of the Union Avenue reconstruction project that is being undertaken by Public Works, as part of that road work, we are working with Durham Region to put a sewer pipe under that road, which would allow for residents to hook up to that sewer pipe once it's constructed. That would be at their decision, I guess, in working with the region. So that's part of the capital works project. It's not dependent on the Del Park subdivision. And yes, there would be capacity for those existing residents.
So if I live on Union Avenue and I want town sewer and I hear that it's coming, how do I realize it? Is somebody sending me a letter, or am I getting my information on the web, or how is that being communicated to the residents in that area that they have this option?
I might direct that question to Kevin Arsenal. He might know. Otherwise, it would be through the region of Durham.
Okay.
Just before you do that, I believe that the residents in Prince Albert who are on septic system have reserved space in the sewage capacity, so it doesn't affect. I don't believe. That's my understanding. Kevin?
Through the mayor to the councillor, that is correct. It is part of our project. If a homeowner along Union Avenue wish to connect to the sanitary service once it's completed, they would reach out to the Region of Durham Environmental Services Department, which we could provide information for on our My Scugog engagement platform, and have them reach out to them and work through that connection. We do, through the construction stub, a service to property line that each homeowner has the ability to let us know where along their property line they would like that sanitary service stub. So they are already engaged in this process and are aware of the upcoming sanitary sewer.
Splendid. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Kiesebrink?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On page 8, it mentions that with the approval, the Conservation Authority had asked for revisions for the stormwater management plan to incorporate additional features to mitigate increase in phosphorus loading. They recommended things like additional rain gardens, vegetative strips, and enhanced grassy swales and infiltration trenches. Because their comments are documented in your report, are we to assume that all of their recommendations will be carried out with the approval of council?
So through you, Madam Mayor, the Conservation Authority is circulated on these plans as part of the application review process, and they do provide recommendations, and they do also provide draft plan conditions, which are outlined in attachment number 4 to the report. So those draft plan conditions are applicable. Most of their requirements are addressed as part of those detailed designs when we get into the nitty-gritty plans.
Right. Okay. So the bottom line is those recommendations will all come into play in the next phase with the detailed design from after this.
That's correct.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor McDougall?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the presentation, Ms. Prentice. I do have a question just with regards to a lot of the comments that I read came across, and it questioned the density of the development, and the commenters didn't like the quote-unquote high density of the development. I'm not sure exactly whose kind of job it is, in terms of, it's my understanding, I don't believe this is a high density development. It's my understanding, I think this is low density, but I'm not sure. I think that perhaps the neighborhood, which we might know in terms of North Oshawa, Winfield Farms area, is actually considered medium density now. and a high density neighborhood would be like Portland's in Toronto, but I'm not sure of that. Is that correct?
So through you, Madam Mayor, our official plan outlines what we consider in Scugog to be low, medium, high. Each, generally, as you've kind of described it, is on a general level how you would look at density in terms of single detached, with some townhouses are typically considered low density. And then when you move up to really high density, it's those apartment buildings and downtown Toronto type of situation. But yes, in our official plan, we do define what it means for Scugog specifically. And as outlined in the report, this development would be considered low to medium density development. I think a lot of people, because townhouses are becoming more, we're seeing a lot more townhouses within Port Perry now, and that is something that we typically haven't seen in this area. So to existing homeowners, bringing in townhouses into the mix could be considered to them more higher density than they're used to.
Further, Councillor McDougall?
Just a quick question in terms of, I see Durham Region Transit planning made some comments on the plans, and I think some of that's already been incorporated in the plans, but for any remaining comments, they'll be incorporated in the detailed design. Is that fair?
That's correct. They were circulated as part of the application review process, and any recommendations they have would be implemented through the region also enters into a subdivision agreement, and they would provide comments as well through us. But they typically provide comments with respect to providing capability to incorporate transit into the development should DRT provide transit to these areas.
Further, Councillor McDougall?
No, that's all. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Prentice.
Thank you. Are there any other first-time speakers or questioners? Seeing none, I'll turn to Councillor Guido.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Two further questions, if I may. Ms. Prentice, if you can imagine the residents that are currently living in the subdivision on the corner of King and Simcoe are going to see an influx in development all around them, with Dell Park and Magnum, and further up on King Street, there's two potential developments, as well as Stockworth development. Where are we with and understanding that this is not a township owned initiative to drive, but where are we in discussions with the region with a set of traffic lights at King Street and Simcoe and Euler there?
Sure. So the township of, so it would be a region of Durham jurisdiction as to when lights will be installed at the intersection of King and Simcoe Street. They continue to review and monitor development as it gets built, as to when that intersection would warrant the signal. So that's something we would continue to work with them on in terms of monitoring when the construction gets built out and phased.
So and maybe you don't know what the criteria is, but is it homes that are built that would be the criteria to trigger traffic lights being installed? Is it traffic count? How do they determine that we're at a point where traffic lights would be required?
That's going beyond my scope at this point, so I'm not sure if Rob Frasca would be able to speak to that or not.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I believe it's through traffic counts. So they monitor or calculate the traffic flow within the area, and I believe it's a specific traffic count that they're looking for within different roads. And if they meet that criteria, they would eventually get signalized.
Thank you, Mr. Frasca. And Madam Mayor, is this something that comes up at regional council? Is like we see four-way stop signs here. Does traffic light requests come up at regional council?
Not generally. It may come up at an individual works meeting, but generally not. But of course, the region is automatically interested in this type of thing when they're looking at subdivision agreements and site plan approval, and then they will make a determination that yes, that's a possibility, is something we're going to have to look at.
Wonderful, thank you. And my last comment, Ms. Prentice, I'm sure we're not at that point in the design phase yet, but one of the comments that was received from Mr. Arculus is a very valid one with respect to street naming, and trying to tie in as many nods to Prince Albert and its history as possible with our street naming. I'm sure the residents would really value that in the development of the Dell Park development.
Good point. Yes, absolutely. I have no other questions. I'm looking for a motion to the recommendation. Can we put the recommendation up, please, Madam Clerk? And looking for Councillor Kiesebrink, is your hand up from before, or are you making the motion?
I'm making the motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. The motion is there for everyone's viewing. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Guido. Okay, are we any other further comments or questions? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, can we call the vote, please?
Voting is open, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Councillor Guido?
Sorry, Madam Clerk, it did not come up for me. I'll vote in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, and that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And once again, Robin and the Planning Department, well done. This is an excellent report, and I think you've listened to our residents and their concerns and answered appropriately and really tried to address their concerns. So thank you very much for that. Moving on to the next item of business, 11.2, the capital project closing report. And is Shelley Feist-Trimble here tonight? I don't recall you saying her name. Otherwise, I'll call on Director Barta.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I don't believe that Shelley is on the line.
Do you have anything you'd like to highlight from your report?
It's a report that's done regularly with the review of capital projects when there are projects that are complete and there is the need to close them. It is more of an information report to council so that you're aware that some budget or some items have come in over budget, some under budget. What we like to do with the ones that came in under budget is uncommit the balance of the amount that was being transferred from the reserves to make it available for future projects. And anything that came in over budget, we would like your approval basically to authorize the withdrawal from reserves to cover the shortfall. We had mostly in this particular report projects that were completed under budget, which is positive. And I think it's a good thing we're taking advantage of these because going forward, we may not be so lucky with some of the financial forecasts.
Oh, that's true. The cost of materials is skyrocketing. So we'll enjoy this time while we can. Anything else, Director Barta?
Not at this point, but I'm happy to entertain questions.
Thank you very much. Could we put the recommendation up, please? Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor McDougall, seconded by Councillor Brown. Questions or comments? Councillor Brown?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, to the director then, I guess. I have had some contact with Shelley on this, but I just want to make sure I understand correctly. In the attachment, page 2 of 4, you denote, and I'll let you get there rather than go at 100 miles an hour here. So then you're on page 2.
Yep.
Okay, you denote 231,781 as a contribution from others. I just want to know, is that geranium that is being referred to? And a secondary question to that, is the overage of the 17,323 in funds that they provided, do we keep that for other projects, or what happens to that money? If in fact it is geranium, I'm presuming it is, but I'll wait to hear from you.
It's through you, Madam Mayor. It is Geranium that has contributed that amount for the stormwater management pond for the work on it. And the balance, according to the agreement, was to be retained for future stormwater management work. So yes, it will be transferred to reserve and held.
Okay, it doesn't have to be in the geranium development. It can be used for anything then, I guess.
It's my understanding that it does not have to be specific to the geranium development. It just has to be specific to stormwater management ponds.
Okay, splendid. Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Any further questions? Seeing none, can we call the question, please, Madam Clerk?
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, and that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, and thank you, Director Barta. We do not have any correspondence, no new business, no closed session. I'll call for a motion to adjourn. And we have Councillor Guido and Councillor Kiesebrink. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Please call the question.
Voting is open, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Voting is closed.
Thank you, carried unanimously. Stay safe this weekend, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night.